put into them before they drafted their plan. Anyway, so my second question was the permitting bill in 30 days, they have 30 days to accept or deny a development application. Is that after the application is deemed complete by the receiving agency in Montgomery County?
They have 30 days to determine whether or not it's complete. If it's rejected, they need to explain why it's rejected. The 5-year period kicks in once the application is determined by the local jurisdiction to be complete.
How long do they have after they determine it's incomplete? Do they have, is there a time frame for when the revised plan goes in? Is there a 30-day clock on that too?
The 30-day clock kicks in again.
Every time they resubmit?
That's the way I read the bill.
This could be interesting, but yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions before Michelle leaves us? You are free to go.
Okay, thank you. Have a good evening. Good night.
Thanks, Michelle.
As I think most of you know, we have an election next month. We have 2 council members that are sadly leaving us on either side of me, Josh Galper and Emily Strulson. We have 4 candidates running. The information has already been sent out. There's both a process if you want to obtain an early ballot, as well as they'll be voting here before the next election. We have tellers. We have a teller, at least one teller here. We have candidates here and on the Zoom. I hope everyone will vote. And I don't think we need to have a long conversation on that, but if someone has a question about it, feel free to go ahead. All right, Brooke, about the forums.
Thank you. So 3 events coming up. The first one will be a week from today at the lot. All events are at the Lawton Center, but the first event will be a forum. We've mentioned this before, but for Democratic candidates for District 1, so our district on the county council. Our own Lyric Winnick will be moderating them. Hopefully you all received the survey. If you wanted to express what issues you'd like to hear covered or give suggestions for questions, please go ahead and fill it out as soon as you can, as the committee will sort of be taking all that information together. The next event will then be for county executive, for the Democratic county executive primary. And then the final event is an open house because there are, I actually think it's 18 now. There have been other candidates that have been added for at-large seats on the county council. So it was impossible to do a forum. So it will be an open house situation. So you can go and meet. It will be tables set up sort of around the room and you can interface with whatever candidates you want. And we're hoping to have a good turnout. We've sent it to, there are 5 neighborhoods involved, but we've sent it far and wide. So please, the room can hold 120 people. So, and then it will also be broadcast on the YouTube part of Montgomery Municipal Cable.
And you should just remind people if they don't realize we're not trying to discriminate against Republicans here.
So there is only one candidate running for District 1 County Council. So you can't have a forum, and primaries are closed. So as a reminder, that means you have to be registered in the party that you're voting for. So if you're a Democrat, you can vote in the Democratic primary, Republican. So it made sense to keep them separate for now. No Republican forum. And then for county executive, there are 2 candidates, but one didn't respond to us. But we did invite the Republican candidates to the open house if you want to meet them. And if there's interest, we'll hopefully put on forums for the general election in the fall with the Republican and the Democrat together.
Thanks for all your work on this, Brooke.
So please do fill out this form and indicate what you're interested in and submit questions, because the goal of this is to try to get the candidates to also talk about specifics of what they plan to do, not just sort of the usual sound bites. And it will not be questions in the room. The questions are all going to be pre-done. So that's why we really want to hear, bring your friends, encourage your friends. We really want to hear what's on people's minds to have the most productive discussion among them as possible.
Thanks, Lyric, and really appreciate you doing this.
And where was this questionnaire quiz on? I didn't know.
It's come in emails, but we'll put it out again.
Yes.
It's a link. It's just a Google Doc.
Oh, I
It's
didn't.
really easy to fill out.
There also are forms that the village has printed out there, and there's a QR code, so if you want to scan it on your way out.
All right, we're gonna move on. To have a short discussion about an issue about a request regarding the Montgomery Municipal Cable franchise, or the cable franchise fee, and Montgomery Municipal Cable wants us to send them that money.
So we spoke about this in detail last meeting, so that history is in the minutes. So if you'd like to get the history, you can go back to those minutes or ask questions, but essentially, Montgomery Municipal Cable is projecting a shortfall of operating funds. And so they have come to the municipalities that set them up in the first place to make use of the cable franchise fees to help keep them afloat for the next couple of years, while they try to figure out a long-term solution. So they are actively trying to identify other ways to make up for this shortfall. But in the meantime, they're asking the municipalities to provide some support. So just for reference, the last few years, our cable fees have fluctuated around about $6,000 to $7,000. It's based on how many subscribers there are, and cable subscribers, the number of those are going down. And streamers don't pay that same fee. And so that's one of the kind of long-term policy solutions to this that will take several years to play out. But yeah, streamers don't pay into that. So a couple of municipalities councils have voted to divert their fiscal year 26 and fiscal year 27 cable fees already. And so I think asking the council to consider that same question, would you want to basically remit our fiscal year 26 and fiscal year 27 cable fees to Montgomery Cable? That's the question to vote on. We can discuss.
And it's, I'm just trying to remember the numbers, but we're talking about
Is it 7
5,000 something, or maybe a little more.
It will
Yeah.
depend.
Yeah, and on the budget, which we'll go over shortly, you'll see it fluctuates just because of accounting and when things are booked. But yeah, it comes out to about between $6,000 to $7,000 a year.
And it's money that comes into us that we would then be sending back to them, essentially, or not having them send it to us in the first place.
Right. So we've already received some of the fiscal year 26 funds. So I think the idea is that we would write a check to them for what we've already received.
Already paid, but in 27.
And we talked about setting up something with because the money comes from the county where they would just send the money directly to MMC in the future.
Right.
So like for the fiscal year, yeah, that would be easier administratively that they could do that.
Yeah.
Rachel, I believe we were gonna send an inquiry to MMC about long-term plans. Did they respond on that?
I haven't been able to pin them down again, but when I spoke to them originally with Shayna with the village and I spoke to them, they've tried a number of things already, from fee generation to working on some of these long-term lobbying efforts to look at the streamers as they should be contributing to these fees as well, but they don't have any, at this time. Yeah, and I will continue. I have a call into to the director of MMC. But I think what we could do is that just make it very clear and time limited of like, this is for 2 years. This is not
That's right.
an extended.
And that would make me feel comfortable. It goes back to our discussion at the last meeting where they still need to figure out how they're going to support themselves, but we're putting a cap, essentially 2 years on foregoing these fees.
I think it's also two other data points, I think, too. One, they do have a YouTube streaming channel, so you don't just have to be a cable user to benefit from their content. And for the forum, for example, they provided all of the microphones. They provide all of our equipment that allows us to stream our meetings. So I do think that they provide a service beyond cable that isn't necessarily obvious from the title. And then not to get ahead in the budget, but I think it is appropriate for this to say we're not, like, we have the money. We're not, this wouldn't put us in dire straits if we were considering to do this. But I think in that context, I think it's important to bring up.
This amount, yeah. And I will also, I guess, one for Sean, to go to your question, one of the things I think that they have talked about, if they do continue to protect the shortfall, they would need to scale back what they offer and what they broadcast, essentially. So right now they do not only focus on municipal content, but also they county wise. So I think the first step that they would take, what they had said to us, was that they would scale back their coverage of countywide news and coverage. Yeah.
One thing I'll say too is, and I learned this at the last meeting, but apparently we were one of the municipalities that helped found this.
It's like the 11, we all founded it, so we do.
So
have
I
some
mean,
responsibility.
Right.
Yeah.
it's ancient history, but feels like there's some measure of responsibility on our shoulders.
And it also, I mean, I think we're also living through a time where there are a lot of local news outlets. I don't know how much you've been following sort of the obliteration of local news sources. So I know personally, it's not something that I think we should be set up forever as a municipality, but I do think that there is a public good in making sure that we have access. I mean, when you say if the count, it troubles me that they'd count the county stuff, because to be quite honest, I think our municipal budgets are pretty straightforward and not very controversial. And I think there are a lot of much more divisive issues that happen at the county level, and I'd hate to lose coverage for some of that.
Anyone have any questions about this? Do we have a motion?
I would move to allocate 2 years.
Josh,
I second that.
all in favor?
Aye.
Approved. All right, the budget. Rachel.
So I'm gonna pull up the draft that I have. I do have some hard copies. I will say they're drafts, so you can read them with I need one of the things, but I have this one kind of larger copy, and this is the full packet. If you want to take a look. But just a reminder of how this will go in at least 2 weeks before the May meeting, so by like mid to late next week.
I can, because I printed one if you want to give.
Yeah.
Rachel, what was that about mid to late next week?
But mid to late next week, I will send out the mailing. There'll be a paper mailing to everyone that will have the
Budget.
memo.
Yep.
Who's the fourth one? Oh, no, we got two.
Oh, and I think also to start, and Ron, can you make sure that we do this correctly? But to start this, the state of Maryland requires that municipal budgets be approved by ordinance. So I think we'll need to formally introduce ordinance 426-1, which is a non-emergency ordinance to allow the Section 5 Council to adopt the budget for fiscal year 27 and to set the Section 5 real, personal, and utility property tax rates at $0 per $100 of assessed property value.
I'm gonna move to introduce this, and my favorite thing to move is the 0% tax rate. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Your great honor.
And
Do the ayes have it?
I should give it to you.
Yeah, oh no,
It's
that's all right.
introduced.
This is really not, it's,
And then
I
there'll
mean,
be a
I-
public hearing at the May meeting, correct?
Correct.
yes.
Right. Nothing is approved by that vote. It's purely being introduced, and that will allow us to vote on it at the May meeting.
And we will, and as part of that, it will be shared ahead of time,
Right.
at least 2 weeks in advance of the May meeting.
And everybody votes on the tax rate, correct, Ron?
Correct. Well, everybody on the council.
Voted on.
Yeah, I thought the residents voted, Ron,
Maybe
on the
them.
tax rate.
just for fun.
No, the tax rates are adopted by motion of the council. If under the constant yield rate law, which has been replaced, if you were raising rates above the constant yield rate, you had to have a public hearing and publish in the newspaper. Might be that what you're referring to?
I think Kevin and I both remember that we've all.
Do you have the ordinance in the charter?
Great.
Yes.
And it's
Oh.
like, it has been
Yeah.
residents who vote on it.
Correct.
Yeah,
Do you, if you have a special provision in the charter, then yes. Let me
We
look at
do.
the
Yeah,
charter.
I think we do.
Okay.
I think we do. Regardless, I don't think anyone's gonna sue us about it. The council all voted the same way as long as the residents. All right, sorry, Rachel, let's turn it over to you.
I mean, I will note that also we are one of the only, if not the only municipality that doesn't levy an extra tax, like property tax on residents, so.
We are the only.
It's
Yeah.
ours.
Yeah. Great.
Okay.
Okay, so,
Okay, yeah, your charter, section 601 says the tax rate shall be voted on by the voters attending the annual meeting.
Great,
Which is the binding one?
that one,
That-
that Trump.
Red.
If you're attending.
Right, only for 10 meetings, so only.
Only if you attend,
Online.
yes.
No, wow.
You could attend by Zoom.
Oh my God.
You good, yeah?
Yeah, I don't think there'll be a lot of drama on the vote, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Given that
Rachel,
it's 0, yeah.
0, yeah.
so we will get started. To start off, for the investment and interest income here, we've seen increasing returns over the last couple of years. From our investments as we transfer money to the MLGIP, which is an investment fund for municipal governments, as well as this year we've been working on consolidating some of our CD accounts and withdrawing funds from old outdated CDs. So for the upcoming year, I have budgeted an increase from this year, so 132,000 of interest or investment interest income. And then if we go down to the income tax revenues, this is typically budgeted conservatively because the distributions fluctuate dramatically. There was a year around COVID when it fell drastically. And so that's always a risk. So my recommendation for this year is to budget close to the lowest of the last 3 years, which is a little over 850,000. You'll see here in the spreadsheet that while we are projecting to have over $1 million in revenue from the income taxes this year, that we made an abnormally large November distribution this year. So the win tax case reductions, that is a historic deduction that we've been taking out. So we have to reimburse the state for these WIN funds, and there's a budget note that goes into the details of it, but it's the state automatically takes those funds out of the distributions that we get for 4 of the months. And so we include it in our budget as an accounting reminder. But the highway user revenue, each year the state gives us the amount that they anticipate that we'll receive and we should budget for, and they give periodic updates. They send us letters. And so this amount here, 37,718, is the most recent estimate that they have provided to us. Yes. Okay. And then miscellaneous income. This is not typically, this is where miscellaneous things fall. So this year, that $1,045 that you see for this fiscal year is the unclaimed property that we reclaimed this year. So we don't typically see significant miscellaneous income. Building fees have been going up as there have been a lot of projects happening, and I project that they will continue to go up. Cable franchise fees, when we introduce, or in the next version, I will.
Hannah, you're not muted. Thank you.
I will remove the cable franchise fees from the fiscal year 27 budget. So we'll
And you
do
can
that.
remove them from the 26 projections too, I guess, when in the documents,
Yeah,
because.
so for,
Mhm.
yeah, I'll remove that. The ARPA, so the use of the prior year funds balance, that's the line under the cable TV franchise fees. Last year that was, and in previous years that was used to represent the ARPA funding that we got several years ago. But we will have spent all of those funds by this year as required by the grants. So,
Right, that was use it or lose it, so.
Excellent.
and so I'll be doing the reporting for that in a few weeks we've almost fully expended those funds. So that's where we come in terms of the total income, a little over $1 million of projected income. I'll pause to see if there are any questions. So we'll start here with the maintenance cost. Composting, this is the program that we run through Compost Crew. We have a contract with them, slight fluctuation year to year, but I've kept that number relatively consistent, allowing for a few additional new users. People have to opt in. Landscaping, that too is staying consistent with previous years. Leaf removal, there was a slight dip a couple years ago because of some of the street projects. There were some missed leaf days, but I think we're back on track now. Police salaries, they each, it's 20 hours a week that they each work, or 10 hours each, 20 total per week. So that is included here, as well as the holiday bonus that we have traditionally provided to them. Snow removal and sanding, this, as we all know, was significant this year. And so while I didn't budget quite at the level that we spent this year, it is an increase from what we budgeted last year. I mean, I was kind of interested to see, as I was budgeting for that, how low some of the fiscal year 23 spending was on snow. So light year. Sidewalk repair. This is where we usually do sidewalk shaving once a year in the spring. So that goes there, and then ad hoc or as needed sidewalk repair. So when the truck crashed on Woodbine and we had to redo that sidewalk, that's where that fell. This under that, the street repair and maintenance, that this year is where the Leland Court project is falling. Don't anticipate any significant capital projects for next year, but putting some funds there just for as needed or potential projects that pop up for repairs. Street lighting, keeping that pretty consistent. There might be some slight rate increases, but it's been relatively consistent year to year. Town maintenance, this is the line item that includes the dog.
I was listening to section 5. Why should?
Town maintenance, so this includes everything from dog waste bags, the cleaning of the storm drains, recycling bins when people need open tops, they get them from us, and cleaning. So that, again, staying relatively consistent. We go to trash and recycling. We are in year 3 of a 3-year contract. There are 2 extension years on our trash contract. So I am going to revisit that, and we can talk about it next meeting about, do we want to explore the extension option or put it out to bid again? But I kept those rates relatively similar to what it's been. Then if we go, okay, so tree work right of way. In the past, that there's been one line item that includes the tree maintenance and pruning that Leeds does, somewhat regularly, tollbirds fees and the free tree program. But this year I broke that out into 3 separate line items. So there's the tree work right of way. which is budgeted for 34,000, and then the free tree program. This year we spent 17,000. It's it's been growing in popularity. It's a great program, so I kept it at that similar level. And then down in the professional fees section is where I put Tolbert's time. So,
Rachel, can I ask a question?
yes.
I don't recall why, but the budget number for right-of-way tree work last cycle was higher than the proposed budget this year. What?
The tree, so the 61,000, you mean the budgeted number?
Number is 34.
Because that includes that's a lump number for Tolbert.
That's what you're just saying, that's.
Oh, okay, got
Three
it.
combined.
I wasn't picking up on that. Got it.
Yeah. So
And we're below the 65. It was
I think
65
it's
in
slightly above.
the 65 in total, yes.
Yeah, then you're at the cumulative total 71,000,
Mhm.
but
Right,
last, that number was 65, you know.
And is that largely in free trees?
The increase, yes, yeah. Yeah. Okay, and then if we go down to the community engagement or under administrative expenses, that's where we see community engagement. This line item was previously named community other, and I changed the name just to more accurately describe what ends up getting charged to this line item. So it includes things like when a new neighbor moves in, we send them a plant. If I have a working lunch, with other town managers or whatnot, that might go there. The council has historically done a donation to BCC Rescue Squad and the Chevy Chase Fire Department, that goes there. If we want to do a small holiday gift for contractors or consultants who work with us, that goes there. The large jump this year that we see from the previously budgeted 12,000 number is due to the Rosemary Hills outdoor classroom donation that the council had approved last year and has not yet been deployed. I reached out to them, but we don't know the status of that project yet. So that's there in case that they're ready to, call in the donation in the coming year. So community events, that is a line item that was created last year. So that's why you don't see it in clear 25, 24, and 23. And that includes the community events that are spearheaded by, Emily's been, doing an awesome job with it and has brought on a consultant who works also in Section 3 recently, and also community members who have volunteered to help with that. So for this, last year, the budget was 10,000 for that. And for this budget, I have proposed increasing that slightly and to focus on kind of the 4 events that have proved really popular with residents. So Halloween has been a popular event, and I think Hannah's on the line, but she and Duke have graciously hosted it in their yard, and it's been great. And I think there are ways that we could even, make it expand it a bit within reason. So I think we spent about 2,400 last year on the Halloween event, and I'm proposing to allocate about $4,000 to that this coming year. The wine tasting event also has been successful and well liked by residents. So proposing to do that again in the coming year and to allocate about 5,000 to it of the budget. And then the ice cream truck event also in June, we've done that. We did that last year and are planning to do it this year. It's a relatively low touch event, but again, was well attended and popular. Just the section paid for ice cream for whoever wanted to come to Leland Court and participate. So allocating $2,000 to that, and then kind of keeping a flex event that can be the kind of switch depending on where there's interest. So in the past, coffee and chalk has been popular, or the authors panels happening in a couple weeks. So an event such as that. So allocating about $1,000 to that, which brings the total to the $12,000 number that you see there. Next, the fall block party. this is planning, it's a similar budget as past years, allowing for price increases. 4th of July, there's a slight increase that you see in that number going up to 25,000 for adding a porta potty to the event. And the Rocklands invoice was increased from this year, but it seemed to have gone up in part because we added tents to go over the food, so it didn't get too much sun exposure. So yeah, slight increases in the 4th of July event. And then gratuities is the holiday tips for the trash crew. I'll pause there. Are there any questions on the community events or activities? Okay, I'll keep going. The next section is for dues, meetings, and membership. So these 2 line items, association dues and conventions and meetings, were renamed. Previously, it was they were MML specific, but I think our reach and our focus has broadened. And so you're not just looking at MML or MMA, which is the Mayor's Association, but also ICMA, which is the International City County Management Association. Many of our municipalities are members of. I'm adding a membership for that this year, as well as the Montgomery County Civic Federation are 2 additional memberships that we're proposing to add for the coming year. And then conventions and meetings, focusing that more broadly. So, were there any? Next, the office and administration, insurance. This is the cost of we have a general liability policy, workers' comp, and crime insurance. So it's a relatively consistent number year to year. The storage, that's for our offsite storage unit that we have where we store files and the 4th of July banner and all of those things, the election materials. So that tends to have a slight cost increase each year. So I've accounted for that. Office supplies, this is a slight increase this year. This is where one of the bigger charges here is typically the PO box subscription, the post office box that we have in the building next door. So that annual subscription hits there, things just like paper, stamps, ink. And then this coming year, I'm proposing to purchase a town iPad. So to use both as a laptop, but also now that we do, for example, like our permitting, we used to submit big roll, your plans, paper plans, and we don't require that anymore. So everything is really virtual. So when there are meetings and that type of thing, I think it would be very useful to be able to have a town iPad for that purpose. So that is what that increase is. Printing costs, we had this year and last year, we did have kind of little jumps in the printing because when we do things like the code updates and charter updates and appeals, those all had printed mailings that had to go out. So it was spikes in cost last year, but I've accounted for similar spikes for the coming year potentially, but yeah, we don't know if it'll materialize or not. Website and computer maintenance, that is where things like our QuickBook charges come in, our website hosting, our Adobe, Microsoft, all those Zoom subscriptions, all those subscriptions go there. And so that's relatively consistent yet again. I'll pause there. Any questions on office administration?
I have a weird little question, but the price of a stamp is trending towards $1. I think it's about to hit 80 cents. And I'm wondering, if there's a way to ask residents to opt in if they want mailed agendas for the monthly council meetings rather than blanket mail them and do predominantly email. Like if you don't want email, you could opt in, because this is actually for all the different households. If you do it up twice a year, if we really do get sort of close to $1, it's not a massive cost, but it's not insignificant considering how much everything else goes up. And I don't even know how many people open those envelopes. So it's kind of something to think about, whether it's necessary to keep mailing them, even though it's been an historic practice. Like, you can still mail the little newsletter and everything like that, but the monthly meeting agendas, maybe it's not necessary. Like, you could do it for like the big May meeting or something.
We have to.
Yeah, there's some
There.
stuff legally we have to, but I'm fine with an opt-out. You know, send an email.
Like, yeah, I really want to continue to receive the paper ones, say that you do, but if you don't, if it's not an issue and you don't need to and you don't want to, then, you know, that won't happen.
And we just obviously carve out anything that legally we have to send out by mail.
Yeah, and I think even doing an opt-in, we would need to probably update. I think it's in our. It's in our charter, I think.
All the
It would require,
Yeah.
The ordinance is
But with the
absolutely.
agendas.
I don't think the agendas we have.
May not be.
Agendas
Monthly
for the monthly agendas. I don't know, it's something.
You will have
It doesn't have to be done now, but it's something to look
Yeah.
at for the next year, because I think that, you know, this is, and everything like Zoom costs will, all these other subscriptions will go up.
Yeah.
And, you know,
They could save a couple $1,000 a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's a community event.
No, I'm fine with that idea. I think over the summer we should figure this out.
Look into it.
Thank you, Lyric. All right,
Um,
let's move to the personnel.
yes, personnel and admin expenses.
We just want to move this. Hold on.
Yeah.
Hopefully you can. Yeah. The personal and admin expenses, the employee benefit costs is health insurance that the town pays the fee of. And there's a nominal mandatory life insurance policy there also, and so it's 80%, I pay 20%, and it's through the county, so that's great. The managerial salary staying consistent with last year. Payroll fees and taxes, we use a payroll administrator who handles that, so that is where all that. All right, now if we go to professional fees. These have been one of the most steady increases year on year. It's been in our professional fees as we have kind of grown in scope and brought on additional contractors, but accounting is roughly the same from last year. This is where things like our QuickBooks consultant, her fees hit here, and while she's been scaling back her hours, and so there's been a cost saving there, our audit fees tend to have, you know, slight increases year on year. So that's why I've kept it as it is. Our building inspector, that's Steve Circo. Previously, we were using an engineering firm, which
big savings.
yeah. Well, before that, it was Joe Toomey, who is a consultant. Our costs went up exponentially once we switched to this engineering firm. And now we have, started working with Steve Circo, and that's been going great. He's been really efficient, great to work with, and our costs are going down. So win-win on that. Legal, that is where Michelle Rosenfeld and Ron Bolt's fees hit. It's been going up year to year.
And Richard Tabato was.
Richard Tabato is
Is
in
in
the professional
line,
fees.
okay.
Yeah. Mhm. The legal fees have been going up year to year, not just because we've added Michelle's work, but things like PIA requests or code ordinance updates that Ron has been engaged on. Those have all increased his time. So we appreciate, Ron, your work with us. And then after that, professional fees, those have gone up as we have engaged. For example, Clark Azar, who is the engineering firm they consult on construction projects like Leland Court, but also things, just general capital projects. I'll come back to them in a minute, but then Julie, who's also on here, but she helps with a number of different office matters. So office, records management, admin, website. She's really done a ton with the website. So thank you, Julie. Helping with the directory, those types of things. So her fees fall into here. And then Richard Tabatov, I budgeted the same amount that the 5,000 for 3 months, so 15,000 total is included in this line item. So then the last big piece of this increase is the capital improvement plan, which we spoke about last meeting. And Sean and I had a call with Jason Azar to discuss in more detail and to bring up, I think, some of the concerns that maybe were voiced last time about what are we really getting for, would be the total contract ceiling would be 42,000 to do this capital improvement plan. I will say it's time and material, so it's not a guarantee that that is what we would be spending. It would be based on what we ask them to do and how we scale the plan and the process. Sean, is there anything you wanted to say about that?
I thought the call was really informative, and we spent close to an hour talking about the proposal, and I think we specifically voiced some of the questions that came up from the public at the last meeting. And I kind of prodded on that a little bit just because I thought it was going to be important to be responsive tonight. And one of the things I thought was interesting was, I mean, I certainly have no idea what I'm looking at when I'm looking at a road. If I see cracks in it, does that mean it needs to be paved in 2 months, or can we eke by the 5 or 7 years? So they bring that kind of expertise. Another thing that I found really compelling about if you look at this from a value perspective, he references work with another town, for instance, and I can't remember the municipality that was named here, but you can, after the plan is written and needs are identified, be roads, stormwater, curbs. I've not surprisingly impressed them on traffic management. When those needs are identified through the study, really, if you look at this as kind of a long-term planning tool, for instance, he can say, look, we expect in 18 months the cost of pavement to be 2x what it is now, so you might get this project done now rather than pay more out later. And I certainly don't want to speak for any of my council colleagues or Rachel, but again, if I'm looking at a cracked road, I can't tell you if it's a 6-month project or if it's a 6-year project. They've done good work for us in the past, and if I'm looking at this through the lens of a long, even short, medium, and long-term planning tool, it seems to make a lot of sense to me, given where we are from a budget perspective and their record of doing good work for us. Not sure if there are other points that I'm missing, but
one thing that I thought was good to bring up, but it's kind of a one-time fee cost that we would be signing up for, and then Garrett, he also works in Garrett Park, and so that he did this, and every couple years he goes back and just for maybe a couple $1,000s just does a quick, okay, do we need to update anything? Should we move anything up? What, based on the cost of asphalt, should we fast track something that we had originally planned to do in a few years? So I think that phasing is really useful, the prioritization of what should be prioritized. And there are, included in the base proposal, I would say, is not a traffic study per se, but they could bring in a sub to look more specifically at the traffic calming measures that we've discussed here. But again, that's something we can work out in future months, but I think for the purposes of the budget and the matter at hand.
The other thing I'd say too is, at least in my time here, we haven't looked at projects holistically and with a long-term lens. So this feels like an appropriate planning tool to me. I know that folks have expressed questions about the $25,000 phase 1. I think it's 18 for phase 2. But again, like if you look at it, the Leland Court example is a perfect one. The original cost almost doubled, based on the cost of materials. I'm not saying that they could have stopped that, but I think if we're looking at all of our needs, specifically as infrastructure ages, stormwater becomes more of a problem. Like sometimes it's simple fix like street grading, sometimes it's obviously much more. So I think having that expertise and that long-term kind of view into things will be really helpful.
And I'll say my last thing is what was useful when I looked at one of the examples that he shared with me as a plan they did for their municipality. It was seeing kind of the bottom line of what the total cost of all these improvements that they had slated for the coming decade, essentially. And it was over $3 million, I think. And so I think that we are very prone to look at our reserves and say, you know, that, you know, we don't have to worry, but at the same time, we've lucked out. We haven't had to do any big street projects in recent years because WSSC or Washington Gas have done the repaving, but we do need to be planning and ready for doing some of these ourselves.
I like the idea of being proactive about this and having a foundation, a plan to follow over the long term, and it helps us to budget for these plans instead of being reactionary and having to dip into funds if we need to.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
The last note I'll put is, you know, it's really clear that this is going to be a roadmap, and there are going to be times we're going to have to move from it. You know,
Sure.
whether it's financial pressure or we identify other needs. So, you know, he's going to be able to help us identify costs for fixed items like, say, for the sake of conversation, speed bumps.
Or a truck drives on.
Or a truck drive.
Sidewalks.
Like, these are like, you know,
Or
relatively
perhaps.
fixed items that can factor into that planning process.
Kevin,
So the CIP plan obviously is a really good idea that we're planning in advance. What access do we have to Washington Gas Light and WSSC plans where, you know, we got Williams Lane free.
Yeah.
But you know, do they share their plans? And if not, how would we need to get that to the person who's doing planning? Because if they're gonna plan, you know, sewer replacements the following year, we don't want to do repaving.
That comes, I think, in the regular course of consultation with the utilities. But yeah, I mean, I think.
How is this regular course maintained?
Well, I think we just have to continue to keep that conversation going proactively.
We'll have a separate proposal and plan for the actual specific thing that we will do. This is about identifying, benchmarking what that plan could be, but you'd have a separate statement of work and a contract such that you would then go to Washington Gas and talk with them. Yeah.
Washington Gas and WSSC, even though it may not look that way, do planning too. They have a plan. Wouldn't you want to see their plan before you do your plan? They should be planning years in advance.
well, there are two points there, I think, Kevin. One is, would we want to see their plans? Absolutely. It would be useful. At the same time, I don't think it hurts us if Park Azar says, well, Underwood Street, this part is in desperate need of repaving. They come back and it's not going to change their cost if they do that. If we then find out, oh, wait a minute, has to happen quickly. But even if we haven't heard anything from Washington Gas or, and said, wait a minute, we need to do this. Are you planning to go in here and tear this street up? So we shouldn't do it first. What's going on?
Irrespective of the duplication not bothering you that much, or how much it is. I don't think there's a regular procedure for them notifying us, and I assume all the other municipalities. So I think we might be lucky when we find out things, 2 months in advance.
Don't you work
Perhaps
on it?
this is a question for the municipalities of the county generally, is should there be reporting mechanism about what the plans are from both utilities, and I don't know, Pepco is part of this deal too, so that we have something that we could refer to on a spreadsheet. And of course, it could change, it's fine, but I have a feeling it's very costly for us to go in every time and say, what's happening, this month on the street.
We do have communication with them and they do share. And I will say also
Is
a lot of
regular in any way is the question.
Yeah, I mean, they're regularly monthly or quarterly meetings that
Think of a piece of paper, not a meeting.
yeah, and I mean, I think that we also have those lines of communication. So part of our process, for example, could be we could write into the scope, say, check it, let's check in and look and ask WSSC for their plan. It's not a difficult thing because we have those relations, like they're very willing, I think, to share, in my experience, to share their plans. I will also say that the projects that we've done in the last 5 years are kind of once in a century projects, and we've done most of our like WSSC replacements, to Washington Gas replacements. So if we're thinking about this for the next 15 years, it's not going to, I think there are maybe like Windsor Court, there are a few streets that we might need to think about, but for the most part, we don't need to coordinate with the utilities.
Well, I should mention, and this is the last thing I'd say on this, I had to figure out that they were leaving out half of our street when the WSSC was doing the work based on something obscure that I will not mention. And then they changed their minds after a citizen raised it, suggesting that we need a better procedure than me randomly finding out about their plan and having it changed.
Well, and I think too, I think you bring up a good point, Kevin, and it feels to me as a new member of the council, like this is the most proactive planning I've seen the council do. And I give Rachel a ton of credit for as we've gone through this and we were looking at the budget. So I think all of your points are really well taken. And as we move forward and continue to try to be proactive, like I think that those are great ideas to, make sure we interface with the utilities and the county even and sort of figure out, what's going on. And same streetlights, Pepco, we, that's always in the back of our minds because we know that's coming down the pike. So I think 100% agree. Yeah.
Any other comments about the budget, which we're not voting on tonight to stress that, but has been introduced?
So you knew this was coming. I think we skipped over the rebate to residents.
Well, the rebate to residents hasn't been approved and it may not be. So
I'm asking a procedural question, which we remained unresolved last time. So as I understand it, you were voting on the budget at the Monday, at the May meeting, is that
correct?
The FY27 budget. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the town rebate is the FY26 budget?
Is
There, yeah.
So the rebate is always voted on at the June meeting. So after the budget.
Okay.
After the budget is already passed, the council votes on it at the June meeting because we want to wait to see, that's when the last income tax distribution comes. And so the idea behind the rebate is that the council votes on it based on whether or not we can afford it, essentially, whether or not, where it's going to. So we won't know that until June. And so it is a retroactive, piece that means.
So the discussion that's public would be in May about what you're anticipating. When does the public get its?
June is
when
when we discuss
in June and we vote in June.
On the rebate, not on the tax rate. The tax rate is in May.
So
The rebate,
no advance notice.
the rebate is based on whether there's a surplus basically at the end of the year in the budget. If there's no surplus, there's no rebate. And the only way you know if there's a surplus is how much money has come in from the state. So there's no mechanism to know that because they're not gonna know in advance.
We don't know much in May, is that what I'm hearing?
There's one, probably our third or fourth largest distribution typically tends to be in June. So we might have an idea in May, but no, we want to see where we fall. For example, this year we have Leland Court. So, depending on where our May and June distributions actually come, we may be in the red at the end of the year. That might put us into a deficit. So
the June agenda will say discussion of residents tax rebate.
Yeah.
And the last question is a legal one. I thought there was a requirement that budget expenditures over a certain amount, be approved. At the time budget is approved. Does that affect this? Is the budget for the last fiscal year has already been approved?
The council can vote to approve
Override it, maybe. Yeah.
The council can vote on these. It's not a problem. I mean, we've done this.
It's like an amendment.
You want to chime in?
Go ahead.
We've had votes on.
Yeah, it sounds to me like it's like an amendment to the budget. So under state law, you do an annual levy, an annual appropriation. But you can amend that budget throughout the year. Amendments require a supermajority, 4 votes out of the 5. So once you adopt the budget, if you want to do a supplemental appropriation, then you have an amendment to the budget approved by 4 council members. So if you adopt your budget in May and then amend it in June, you can do so with a vote with 4 affirmative votes.
But we're
We've done
amending
that
not
this
the
year.
budget that we passed. It'd be amending the fiscal year 26
You
budget.
can't have 2 outliers, can't be 3 to 2. Okay, that's interesting. Thanks, Roger.
Yep.
Anything else before we move to the manager's report?
I will say there's just one line item that we didn't get to, but that is the Section 5 land survey. That is the GIS map that we talked about last time, and everyone seemed to be on board, but they'll create a GIS map basically of all the town assets. It'll be a few-month process over the summer and a one-time fee with probably a couple thousand year to year to maintain the map. I'll maintain it, and so that's the software subscription. That would be the recurring cost year to year.
Hey guys,
Great.
this is Hannah on the Zoom. Can you guys hear me?
Hey, Hannah.
Hey, is it okay to ask a quick question?
Of course it is.
I don't know if this is the right time to suggest it. This might be a silly suggestion, but I know Rachel mentioned one of the line items included like the dog waste bags and stuff. And I have always dreamed that maybe we could add like a little trash receptacle to that station, because there are a lot of dog waste bags that I see around the neighborhood and people that don't pick up their dog waste, unfortunately. And I wonder if that might help encourage that behavior. I know that also raises the issue of who would empty those. And I don't know. I know they have some of those, for example, in section 3. I assume the bins get emptied by the trash service, but I don't know for sure.
Actually,
So,
whoever proposes it has to do it. So.
yeah, so I'll just go there every week and
So what we do actually, because we have trash cans, the town trash cans on like Connecticut and Brookville, and our trash contractor picks up the trash.
so I wonder if that was something we could, if other people agree that might be a good idea. And maybe there's one also in the sort of Leland area, or if there's another need for one over there, but maybe that's something we could consider either in this budget or at some budget in the future.
Well, I don't even think we need a budget line for this. I think let's just, Rachel, do you mind looking into the feasibility and just what this would entail? And then we can figure out if it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would just be ordering a new station.
Yeah.
We have the stations. I will say one of my big victories from the last one is we've had missing keys and we've had a lot of trouble filling the bags, but I got more keys on.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Thank you, Hannah. It is a good idea.
It's a great idea.
Yeah, I
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
as a dog walker because I see that a lot and yeah.
But add variety to our walking patterns.
Yeah.
Basically trash.
Yeah. All right. Rachel, I think you have a shorter manager's report today.
Yes, we do. So I'm going to jump in just for the CDs. I'll just note quickly the M&T CD matured. I withdrew that, put it into the checking account. And then we have two Bank of America CDs that matured a couple days ago. I'm proposing to withdraw these funds and just put them in the savings account. And then either next month or June, I think we can talk about putting another chunk into MLGIP and or a couple of new CDs.
Do we have a motion for the Bank of America CDs that have matured to move them into the savings account?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great. So we'll come to either May or June with the ideas of where to put those funds. So manager's report, one quick note about the election is I was thinking about potentially seeing if maybe we could get a food truck to come during the election, during voting. I know we have our meeting at the same time, but if anyone has any strong feelings one way or another, let me know. Might be a fun way to get people out. So
Yeah.
if anyone has any favorite food trucks, I can look into.
Or ice cream.
Ice cream, yes.
Could do that too.
Yeah.
Added
I
enticement.
believe Washington used hard cider, so just.
Yeah, very nice.
Orange Edition, I think,
It
does
is beautiful.
provide,
Breakfast Edition's having a timber pizza
yeah, that's this Thursday.
tomorrow, I think.
I read about that somewhere.
Can you remind everyone what the date of the May meeting is?
May 5th, Tuesday, yeah. And then the election, the polling starts at 6. So the Leland Court project was started for end of April, early May to start construction. We're going to schedule a day probably next week, or maybe the following week to meet on site. And one idea the contractor had was to go door to door with residents because there will be some impact to some of the walkways. They might need to take up some resident walkways. They will replace and repair back to new, but just to prepare the residents. I think it'll be good if they can, it's a small court, so I think they'll be able to go door to door. I appreciated that suggestion from them. It'll be about a month, so we actually might need to do the ice cream truck event elsewhere, depending on when they wrap up, but they expect to take about a month. I will also note that we have had a permit application, or we're in talks with someone who's about to submit a permit application. It's probably one of the only properties in Section 5 that doesn't have a curb cut currently, and they're on the court and they want to put a curb cut in. So I had a traffic engineer come out to take a look, and we've been talking with Public Works. It's a tricky place where it is, and getting it to kind of minimize impact to trees, but also parking and safety. So we're in the process of that, trying to figure that out so it can coincide the larger street project. The Woodbine truck crash, I long for the day. I won't be updating you on this anymore. Our insurance company was looking into it. They are going to cover the cost of the new tree and the tree removal, but the sidewalk they will not cover. It's not on their schedule. So anyway, and then we have a deductible of $1,000. So they'll reimburse us for $370 is what we'll get. I think they're still working to get in touch with the truck company. So I don't, yeah. And so anyway, that's still ongoing. You'll probably get another update next month. PIA requests, we had a PIA request in the last month that I reported on it then. We produced the reports. There was a fee for that resident, Val. It was a request for a number of financial reports from QuickBooks. Our QuickBooks consultant, Val, helped me to produce those. The ombudsman, who had opened an investigation about it, marked it as resolved, although I think the requester maybe classified it more as partially resolved. So anyway, we'll be responsive as more questions come in about that. 4th of July, I signed the Rocklands and the Talk of the Town contracts. Rocklands is pretty much the same deal as last year, with the addition of the porta potty. And then I booked the Talk of the Town. The price went down this year and they couldn't really tell me why. That was nice. And it's the same thing with the dual water slide and the large moon bounce. Because it is sort of a special 250th, we had talked about potentially doing something special to commemorate. And one idea that had come up was maybe like getting flags for each resident, putting in their yards. I don't know if anyone has other ideas, but open if anyone wants to do something special. One thing I'll flag also is we always ask for RSVPs. It's never necessary. Anyone can come, even if they don't RSVP, but because it is a holiday weekend, I think trying to get a good sense of, is it going to be way more or way more or way fewer people than in previous years will be useful. So I will make sure to highlight that in my communications, and I'll probably use the Evite link because now we have that Evite account that we've been using for the wine tastings. So it's a little easier for people to RSVP. The directory, I know this has been a long time, but Julie has been helping with that, and I really appreciate it, Julie. But we're working on it, and I'll send out another call. I didn't want it to get lost in all the elections and other communications going out, but it's in the works, and I'll send out another call for people to update their forms or their information if they want. The new website, I don't know if anyone has seen it lately. It is up and it's live, and it's the idea behind it, we didn't really have a choice. They kind of said we had to go through this update with the idea that it would be a smoother user experience and updating on the back end, supposedly. So thank you for patience in troubleshooting as issues come up. But I think all the content has been migrated at this point, but definitely there's something that isn't as it should. We can figure that out. I will also note that we took this opportunity. It was a big undertaking, but we consolidated our code and our charter. Previously, we didn't have like a single PDF document of each available. So now on the website, those are up and easy to navigate, links for all the chapters. So thank you, Julie, for your work on that, and Ron to helped make sure that was looking good. So appreciate it. The shred event is scheduled. We're gonna do it in June this year because of availability, and we're actually switching the contractor because the Patriot Company did it previously, it was acquired and they didn't have any availability on weekends. So we got a weekend with a different contractor who does the villages for shred event. So that will be June 7th, 9 to 12. Tree removal permits, we've had 3 since the last meeting. And then building permits, we have had 4 since the last meeting, and there are several in the works. I will also highlight one stop work order that we did in the last few weeks on a project on Thornapple Street. This is actually their second stop work order because they had done outdoor work previously that was not included on their original permit. And then when Steve went to go close out, saw that they had built the patio in the back much larger than it was supposed to have been, and couldn't verify if the stormwater management pieces had been done as they should have been done. So we issued a stop work order on that project. And it hasn't been lifted. They're in the process of doing the remediation pieces that they need to do in terms of, and so what we require them to do is to make the patio smaller and then enlarge the dry well that they had. So we're in works on that. So that's all I have. I don't know if there are any
Thank you.
questions. I think Emily, we're going to talk about community events next.
We are.
Sure. We have our wine tasting scheduled for April 25th, and we're charging people just to offset the cost so residents don't feel like we're overspending on alcohol, trying to keep it evenly distributed. So we're also having hors d'oeuvres, and there'll be a souvenir glass. So this event is encompassing a lot of different elements.
And it'll be,
Go
I
ahead.
was gonna say it'll be in my backyard, weather permitting.
Yes, it'll be in the backyard. There'll be a tent, so rain or shine, it will be happening.
Emily, can you share the charge?
$15, Venmo me, and I will reconcile with Rachel. We also have the authors panel that was gonna be during Snowcrete. It's rescheduled for May kindly hosted by the Josephs on May 3rd, and we'll send an invite following to follow, and then the ice cream for end of school, kickoff of summer. So those are what's on our schedule for the remainder of this year. And even though I'm not going to be on the council anymore, I've talked to my council members that I'll help organize these events as needed.
Terrific.
Looking ahead.
Amazing.
One council member who always volunteering. It's not just a term, it's a lifetime commitment. Volunteering.
Thank you. Thank you for that and for all you're doing with these events. It's great.
It's amazing.
Does anyone have any comments before we wrap up? Do I see a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you in 3 weeks, basically, right?
So a couple signatures, please. I mean, it's buried in these two, but I threw that back.
I'll let Rachel know.
Yeah, just make sure you vote.
Did you hear me?
We live right.
I'm not.
Are we off the?
Just make sure you
Are we
vote.
off
Yeah,
the Zoom?
before, I'll let-
Have we exited, Rachel?
No,
Okay, we're exiting.
We're not doing June?
you're not doing Zoom. We're gone.
I'm done. Oh, my last-
No.